Welcome back to my channel. Okay, so today we'll be making this is a semi welt pocket. I wouldn't really call this a welt pocket, but it has a pocket mouth and a pocket lining, because I'm going to add lining to this dress. So I sewed it in such a way that I would line with a lining, after which I fix the pocket. So this pocket is the one you have in your front dress. Okay, so this is how it's like. You can see the inner part, and this is the pocket mouth. So this is the inner part which the lining is going to cover. Okay, so what we're going to do now is, the dimension I used for this is from my waistline I came down 5 inches for this particular kind of pocket I want for this dress. So from the midpoint, I came in from the person's dart point, which is at 4 inches. Okay, then the dimension of the pocket, I've done this, so let me do this. The dimension of this pocket is, after that 4 inches from the dart line, I used 5 inches. It shouldn't be more than 6 inches, because by the time you're done sewing, it will get into 7. You understand? So for this I used 5 and I shared it into 2, which is at 2.5. So at that 2.5 now, I will make a mark there to get the midpoint. So this is my midpoint. So I will get my pocket mouth, my pocket lining. Whatever your pocket lining is, should be 1 inches more than the real pocket mouth which you marked. Okay, so I have, for here I have 5 inches, right? So for here I have more than 5 inches, which is at like 7 or so. So I'll get the midpoint. So after which I get the midpoint, I would notch. Okay, so I will place it at the middle of that point which I made on the actual line with my pin. Okay, then I will get my pocket mouth. So this is my pocket mouth. It's folded into 2 with my interfacing inside. So the width is 3 inches and the size is more than this mark which I made. Okay, just like it did for the pocket lining. So this is 6.75. So I'll go ahead now and sew on this by half and half on each side. Not really half and half, maybe I'll notch the midpoint of that folded part, so I know where to start sewing from when I flip. So I'll sew on each side. Done. After which I'm done, I'll flip to the right side and give it a pin top stitch on the edges of this pocket mouth. So I would lay very well, even without ironing. You can sew on it and give it good design. So I will do my pin top stitch first on it, 4 corners. I'll take it around. So after this, I'll make a decorative stitch on it all around as well at 0.25 after the first line I made. Okay, so we're good to go with this into 2. Please do. I'll fold into 2, get my midpoint. Okay, so I'll come back to my dress and place the same notch point at which I got the other one for the pocket mouth. Okay, so I'll place it this way. This is the color of thread I want for this. I want this color and not this color. So let me just place it so that this other side can flip this way. Sorry. Okay, so I'll place it with the help of my pins as well, I would sew. I would hold down. So I would sew now at just like you make your welt pocket, but this one is not really the welt pocket. Okay, it's not really. This one has, I would turn with a lining, so I don't need to go through all that stress. So that line which I made, you can see the 5 inches I divided into 2. I'll start sewing from that line. Please make sure your hand is straight and you're sewing from that line. I'll sew at 0.25. Okay, then I would sew to this other 5 inches again. I'll stop there and reinforce there. So I'll cut off my threads, and I will do the same for this one as well. Okay, so please, same process from that 5 inches line, or you can just follow this one which you made here and make that seam at 0.25. Don't sew more than 0.25. The least you can do is half an inch. Don't go more than that, because by the time you're done sewing and you want to cut it. So now what you do next is, at this notch point now, at that line where you had your 5, you make a notch there. Okay, so what we want to do now is turn the lining inside. So you make a notch and take it, this is where the seam ends for the lining, right? You make a notch to that part. Getting to where this seam is, take this lining up and go like an arc to that end, to where this seam stops for the lining. We turn to this other side, do the same process. Getting to this point at half an inch, you go like an arc to this other end. Okay, with that your lining can turn inside. So what I'll do is turn this lining inside. Okay, so you can see I'm able to turn in my lining, and this one still remains. So what I'll do now is flip it to the wrong side. Once I flip to the wrong side, it's like this on the wrong side, right? I will get to this other part, notch the middle, notch my midpoint. Okay, then I'll flip this way like this. Okay, and not like this. Like this, I will go this way. Make sure this midpoint is meeting this other midpoint. Okay, I'll just hold with my pins. Okay, then I would now sew the edges of this lining. You can go ahead and notch your part so that you can know where they would meet together, but I already know where mine is. I would sew my edge by half an inch. So I'll sew both sides and come back and show us. So I'm done sewing both sides now. Cut off your seams. Okay, so after which you're done, you want to go ahead and remove your pin. You can see this is how it will be looking. It's looking awkward, right? No voila. So just go ahead and remove that pin, the pin which you're using holding that midpoint together. Take out the pins. Okay, so once you do, you can now flip this seam inside so that it will be enclosed. They usually do this when you know you're not putting line, but I like to make my work very neat. So this is how it will be looking on this side. Okay, so now what to do next is You see this point where you notched, okay? When you bring out the other parts, see this point where you notched. You make sure this point is meeting this other notch point for the pocket mount, okay? Pin in such a way that you'll be able to sew it, okay? This is the notch part. So I'll flip my fabric this way. So once I flip my fabric this way, this is my notch part for my pocket mount. This is it here, okay? So these two notch parts I would pin. So if you want to sew it perfectly, you sew it from the wrong side of your dress that has the seam. Don't go and start sewing it from here. Sew it from this part, the part of the pocket mount. So you just hold to wherever you feel or think your machine can enter to the end. Not really to the end. You would see where mine would stop. This is where my machine can enter here. So I will just pin to that part. Don't worry about the remaining part, because I'm going to use lining to cover up, so you won't really see, okay? You won't really see. So I'll pin now. Anywhere it stops. See this one now. This is where my machine can enter from here. So I'll pin, then sew on directly on this line you made before on the pocket mount. I'll sew there. So I'm almost at the end of that line. You can see I'm sewing directly on that line. So this is where my machine can stop. This is where my machine can take. I won't go beyond that. So I would flip over to the right side of the dress. You can see now we can put my hand in my pockets. You can see this is it, okay? So now we want to cover this pocket mount. Now we want to cover it this way, okay? So you align your fabric very well. Make sure your fabric is aligned very well. It's not giving you that squeeze. You can see it's squeezed here, so you align it in such a way that is aligned, okay? Align and sew. So while you want to sew this part now, make sure your lining is facing downwards so that your seam will not encroach on it, okay? So I will make a pin top stitch now on this pocket mount, a pin top stitch. Make sure your hand is straight and your hand is neat, okay? I'll make a pin top stitch there. So align your fabric while you're sewing, please. Make sure it's aligned, though. Very important. So after which I'm done with this pin top stitch, I will make a decorative stitch on it at 0.25. At 0.25. The essence of this decorative stitch is to remove this first stitch, to lay down the first stitch you made before, okay? So decorative stitch at 0.25. Okay, so align and lay, and make sure your lining is laying down very well beneath your dress. So this is how my pockets will be looking. So with this I can still turn in my lining. You can see I have both pockets. So this is how it's looking. You see how neat it is? You can see this one. I can still pass my hand inside, put in my phones and anything. So I will be turning in this whole fabric now with my lining. Then okay, so this is the outcome of this is the lining. You can see this is the lining, and this is our pocket. So you see, we still have our lining inside.